little tutorial for you today, and what I'm going to do is show you how to make this little cami set for your Barbie doll. It can be adapted to fit any doll, but I'm going to do it for your Barbie. So for this tutorial you will need some stretch lace, enough to go around your doll twice, so whichever doll you decide to make it for, make sure your lace will fit around your doll twice, because you need it to go around her for the pants and around her for the top, and it has to be stretch lace. So that's that. You'll need some string ribbon, or you could use embroidery thread instead of string ribbon. I've chosen some silver to go with this, like a dusky lilac, I'd call it, a very pale dusky lilac. Also, I have my needle and thread, and I have my glue gun, which I will be using to glue on the little tiny bows and the straps. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is lift up our dolly's arms out of the way. This is, she's the Fashionista Ruffles and Lace. No, Leather and Ruffles, and she's on a made to move body, so she's an original size doll. The lace I have chosen for this doll is 5 centimeters wide, so if you wanted to make it for a bigger doll you'd have to use wider lace. So it comes from just under her arms down to her waist, so choose your lace to be roughly that length when you're making your camisole. So for the top we need to measure it around her like so. Cut it to the length that you want it to be. So I'm going to cut it just there. Cut it straight across. I've got it inside out, so we've got room now to sew that. And you want it to be, you don't want it to be loose, you want it to fit tightly on her, otherwise it's just going to fall down. So make sure you sew a good size seam on there so that it's tight. You don't want it to be loose. So that's for the top, and then for the bottom you do exactly the same. Measure around her like this and cut your lace to match the width of her. So mine comes to there, so I'm just going to cut that up there like that. I don't know whether the top and the bottom are the same. You'll see that the bottom is slightly narrower than the top. So the next thing we need to do is take our needle and thread and sew up the seams. So we've got 2 seams to sew. So these are the pants, and they're like cami knickers. So for the cami knickers, match your lace together at the back and stitch it straight across in a straight line. Make sure you've got right sides facing while you're stitching. Give yourself a nice wide seam because you want it to be fitted. You don't want it to be loose and baggy so that they're falling down. No point having baggy undercrackers, is there? So when you finish doing your seam across the back, don't cut your thread because you'll need that in a second. You'll need it still joined on. We need to make the crutch part of the pants, and to do that you need to find the centre front, and you've got this centre back where your seam is. That seam's going to go down the centre at the back. So we need to stitch a tiny little bit there to make the crotch part of the pants. So you can do that, you can overstitch it, you can back stitch it. As long as you stitch it, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to do a quick overstitch on there. You literally need about half a dozen little stitches there just to hold that in position. I'm just going to go back over it to make sure that it's nice and going to hold firm when we put them on her. Make sure you finish off your stitching with a knot, otherwise you'll end up with it unravelling and you'll have to do it all over again. So that's basically the pants. Now the next thing we need to do is to do the gathering for those. So turn them the right way out, and we're going to gather. Let's see how to do a gather. Make sure you have a knot in the end of your cotton to start with. That's vital. Otherwise you won't have a gather, you'll just have a waste of time. Then we're going to stitch a gather stitch, which is just a running stitch. So that's in, out, all the way down the seam at the back, and then up the front, down the centre. Just one stitch all the way around. So make sure your knot's on the inside, bring it out, and then you just go out, in, out, in, out, in, all the way around until you've done the seam at the back, and then up the centre at the front. In, out, all the way to the top. Like so. Gather your pants as much as you want them gathered. Make sure you finish off at the back there. Personally, I don't want the gathering to be too tight. I want it to be gathered a little bit, but not overly gathered. So I'm going to finish off now by just doing a couple of stitches on top of each other. 1, 2, and then finish off with a knot. Go through once and twice. Don't worry too much about that, it will be covered by a bow. So snip off your thread, and that's her pants done apart from the decoration. So let's try those on her. Here we are. So I haven't gathered it too much at the bottom there, but I wanted it to be gathered at the front here. So we've done that, and I'm going to pop a little bow on there, and then at the back it's gathered a little bit too. This stops it gaping out at the back, and I shall pop a little bow on there as well. Just need to cut off that loose thread there. Yeah. So now for the top, which is just as simple as the bottom. So the first thing to do is to sew your seam across the back. So right sides facing together and sew across the back in a straight line. You don't need to gather this. So, I mean, you could gather it if you wanted it to look more like a bra, but we're making a cami top, so. So I've sewed across the back here. This is going to be the centre of her back. So a nice broad seam across there. Then we turn it the right way out, and we'll try it on her. So here she is with her top and bottoms on. Now if you prefer the plainer cami, you can just leave it like that and call it finished. But I wanted to decorate it a little bit with some bows, and I want to put some straps on because this does tend to ping down because it's made of elasticated material and it's quite tight on her. So I'm going to turn this inside out so that I can then glue the straps on. So let's take it all off her again because I don't want to get glue on her. So I want the top inside out like this because we're going to glue our... I'm going to just get a bit of card to pop in there because I don't want to end up getting gluing it close together. So cut yourself a little bit of card or get some paper and pop it inside there so that you're not gluing the two sides together. Same with your pants, get a little bit of card so that you're not gluing it together. So I have my glue gun ready. Now all I need to do is make these teeny tiny bows, and you need to make 4 of the teeny tiny bows. So I literally just tie teeny tiny bows with the teeny tiny thread, which is not easy when you've got fingers like sausages. I have seen there's a way of doing it with a fork, but I've not actually been able to complete that successfully myself. So if anybody can do that, that would probably be the better way to do it. If anyone has any tips on how to make teeny tiny bows with sausage fingers, please let me know in the comments. So I literally just make them like that and just keep pulling them until they're the size that I want them to be, and pulling them tight again. Just keep doing that until you've got them the size that you want them. Because they are for a small doll, you don't want them to be huge. So that's okay. So I'm going to cut the edges off level with the end of the loop. So that's teeny tiny bow number 1. 3 more to go. Okay, so that's my 4 tiny little bows made, ready to pop on. The next thing we need to do is to do the straps of the doll. So they need to go over her shoulders. Like this. You can see the size of the straps there. They just about fit around my little finger. So to make the straps, get your cami positioned. So I'm going to apply a little bit of glue to the end of my ribbon, and I'm going to leave it quite long on the back of the... I'm going to glue quite a long piece of it on the inside of the back of the cami. Make sure you do it sort of halfway between the seam and the outside. It needs to be quite closer to the inside than you think. Make sure you leave a nice long piece to go over a shoulder and onto the other side. We'll measure that in a minute to make sure it fits her properly. We don't want to be just guessing. And then glue on the other side the same way. So quite a good bit of glue on the bottom of your ribbon there. Of course, you could always stitch these into place. You don't have to use them at all. It's just I like to use them so that the cami isn't popping on and off all the time. So once you've got the straps glued into position on the back and they're dry, peel your cami off. Pop it on your doll inside out, not the right way out. Pop it on her inside out. Then bring your strap over the shoulder of the doll. Pop it where you want it to be and pop a little pin in there. Pin the strap into position. Do the same with the other side. So I've laid the straps where I want them to go and I've pinned them into position. Now I'm going to take the cami top off her and glue them into position. Don't forget your piece of card before you start gluing again. Pop your card into position. And then glue your straps into place. So that's one glued, and now the other one, same thing. So while that's drying there, we'll glue the ribbons onto the pants. So we've got our little bows ready. We want one bow at the front and one at the back. Try and choose 2 bows that are a similar size for your cami top so that it matches properly. So I'm going to choose 2 that are very similar in size for that. And then the other 2 I'm going to use for the pants. So I'm going to use this one for the front. Just need a tiny bit of glue on the back there. And just pop your bow on the front of your pants. Then turn your pants over and do the same on the back. So that's the pants finished. Let's pop those on her. Remember, the bows are optional. You don't have to put the bows on if you don't want to. You could always put on, like I say, a little button or a diamante or nothing at all. It's not compulsory. It's just me putting a bit of bling on my doll's undercrackers. I do love how these pants fit. They fit really well. So there's the back and there's the front. I love how they fit. They do look nice on, in my opinion. So now for the bra or the cami top. So turn your cami top the right way out. Pop your cardboard back in. And the final thing we need to do is to just glue the other 2 tiny bows onto the cami at the front. And I'm going to glue them just where the straps are. So same as with the pants, tiny spot of glue on the back of the bow and pop it in position. Actually, if you wanted to, you could just put one in the middle, but I wanted to have one on each strap, so that's one. And then this one, that's 2. So there we are. That's the little bows in position. Once that's dried, you can take it off and try it on your doll. Hopefully it should fit her. It better fit her after all that messing about, hasn't it? So here she is in her new cami set. I'm really pleased with that. It's come out really well, I think. So the next thing I'm going to do is show you how to make just basic underwear with no gathering and no ribbon. So I'll choose a different lace for that. So I'm going to try with this narrower lace this time. This is some lilac lace that I got. It's really pretty lace. But I'm going to try it with this time, just to make a plain bra and pant set with no extras on it, and it'll be a 5-minute job, she says confidently. So let's see. We need to measure again around the doll's waist, around the doll's hips for the pants. So measure around her hips like this. Cut it where it meets. Don't leave a seam because it'll be too loose if you do that. With it being stretch lace, you don't need to leave a seam because sewing the seam will make it tight, and that's what you want. So measure it around your doll. Cut it off where it meets. So those are for the pants, that piece is for the pants. And then for the bra top, do the same. Measure around her. Cut it off where it meets. And then with right sides together, sew your seam at the back for your pants and for your bra. So that's literally it for her bra. So pop it on her. You could decorate it with little ribbons, you could gather it at the front, you could put straps on, it's entirely up to you. But for just a basic bra, that's basically all you have to do. And for the pants, you do the same. Right sides together. And when you've sewn your seam together, remember to make the crutch part of the pants. So fold your lace in half and do your little stitches, about half a dozen stitches, just joining the centre back seam to the centre front of the underwear, and just a few little stitches there to form the crotch part of the pants. Turn them the right way out and pop them on your doll. So here she is in her more sporty underwear. I think I would put straps on the top, but it's not, you don't have to. For photographs, that's fine. It will keep popping down if you don't put straps on, but I wanted to show you how you could make a basic set without having to put straps on. And that would be fine for photographs, wouldn't it? The same with the bottoms. The bottoms could have done with being a little bit longer, maybe. Yeah, you could always use a bit broader lace, but yeah, I think that looks pretty good for a 2-minute set of doll underwear. So I hope that was helpful to someone. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.